there is a question for Kelly, please now. Specifically. Thank you so much. All right, any questions for any speakers?
Can I ask for the gentleman and you guys who had your kids?
Gentleman.
Well, you're the only gentleman on the Well, really, I mean, for you guys who had your kids in some of the district-wide gifted and talented programs, and I know you mentioned Lower Loud and then PS11 and anybody else who wants to pitch in. Do you guys, how do you like those programs? Do you think are the teachers better? Is the curriculum better? How are your kids enjoying it? Just what's your feeling about?
Better is dangerous because what the hell do I know? I know
Yeah.
I know where my kids have been, but how do
Yeah.
you compare it to other people's experiences?
Sure, yeah.
So I'm very reluctant to ever say things like that.
Or I guess
But we've been super happy at Lower Loud. Like we
Okay.
count our lucky stars that we literally and figuratively won the lottery by getting our kids there. It's what do I like about it other than great teachers and great classmates. The school is very attuned to social emotional development. It's not all about academic rigor. They're very attentive to that aspect of the learning process at these ages, for which I'm endlessly grateful. And the PTA is very robust. The annual budget for the PTA is between $750 and $1 million. And they put that money into the classrooms. Every classroom has a teacher's aide in the classroom, so it's not a 1-to-25 ratio, it's a 2-to-25 ratio. They hire a music teacher, they hire a full-time gym, they have a lot of extracurricular, a lot of field trips and stuff like that. So they really, the families there invest in the school and the school invests in the kids.
So how much per year do you have to invest in the school?
There's no mandatory donations.
There's nothing money.
They can ask for something, but you don't have to. You can give whatever you can, and you can not give it all. You can. Some would give more in money, some would give more in their time, some would give neither. So depending on your family and whatever you're able to.
They ask families to give $1,000 a year per kid. I'm sure there's some that give much more, and there's plenty I know that give zero because they don't have the money to spare. And nobody asks questions, and nobody's treated differently.
Yeah, so for us they ask $500 for a child. They say that they spend about $800 per child per year. The rest they kind of fundraise. Of course not. Many don't do 500. Some, I know that the family in our classroom gave 5,000. So it's kind of.
This is for the local school, right?
In PS11.
PS11. But didn't 270 also ask 5,000?
Well, so no, 217 they asked for a suggested donation of $500 per year, but then we have the same thing people give at all different levels, and then nothing is mandatory. But I know this year that it's been doing extremely well, and I feel that there's a large amount of parents involved and great communication with the school on that. And there's no pressure though. Giving is just giving what you can. Yeah. I can say something about the student-teacher ratio. I don't know what it is for all classes, but for Sean's in GNT, and there's 16 children in his class with 16-to-1. I don't know. Natalie has a little more experience with that.
Yeah, so I think all the kindergarten classes this year, the GNT classes, are 16. But when Ian went into the first grade, they did a first, second grade bridge. So he has 26 in his class. So, and then it kind of rolls over to every 1 and 2 being in the same class, and then they're just looking to see who's strong in what, making groups and having the children help each other. So it seems to be working well. It seemed like a little bit of a lot of kids, but Ian says that the class is well behaved and there hasn't been any issues. So.
I think that when you have to think of your own child, like besides G&T, public, private, you know your child more than any teacher will ever know your child. So I think if you know how your child will learn successfully, like for me personally, going to schools, I try to see my daughter in the classroom. And it's hard to kind of, but if I could see someone who was similar to her, that kind of helped as well. So
I guess what I'm really trying to figure out is are there any drawbacks to being in a GNT program? Do they have a lot more work than a regular classroom, or is the curriculum a lot more enriched? Or not a lot more enriched, but Is it just different type of
So
work, or
I
is
guess
it?
these two schools are a little different in the sense that Lower Lab is only a GMT school.
Okay.
PS11 is not a GMT school. It has 2 GMT classes and some, general education. So I think for my son in kindergarten, they had 5 general education and 2 GMT, so 7 in total. For the 3rd grade, I think they have 2 GMT and 3 general education. So enrichment-wise, they all get the same. They treat them, basically the same. But when they go in the classroom, so generally speaking, in not all kids in GMT, but let's say on average, more kids in the GMT class will be a little above, grade level, then they can advance, faster. Some kids in the general education can advance fast as well. I mean, it's not to say that kids that are not in a GMT will not. I mean, some kids just, they're 4. How can you expect a 4-year-old, to take a test, and it's all up to the chemistry that he had that day with, that specific teacher sitting in front of him. So, it's a lot of the line just for that. So if your child is smart, your child will succeed anywhere, right? So it's not just in a GMT program. What I feel is that once you apply to the GMT, it just opens up, just a vast number of options that are otherwise not open to you. That for me was basically the main idea and the main reason behind it. So when it's kind of, it's a learning process. So with my first, we took the GMT test and we kind of said, oh, he's gonna take the GMT and we're gonna put him into 17 and that's it. We kind of didn't even think so much about looking, at other schools, and because, he was here in kindergarten, he did well in kindergarten, we liked the community. And then, but over the years, we kind of started seeing, more things and taking into consideration, other things that we didn't think about before. And, so kind of we decided, okay, here we have an opportunity, we might as well take advantage of it, basically. But it's basically up to your child, right? And if you feel that having him tested at 4 years is, something that you don't feel is necessary for him, then, don't do it. But if you want to have just a larger choice of options and, looking at other schools, then it is hard, it is a process. That week that you have to go through all the schools, kind of hard. After you've been to some, you kind of say, okay, schools are, schools. The classroom is a classroom. They kind of pretty much, look about the same, a little bit here, a little bit there. But, until you're actually in that school, you're not going to know exactly what is going on.
I think that's one point that last year, basically all the speakers agreed that this is one important thing you can do is tour all the schools you are interested in, because they said you get there and then you get a feeling, like you talk to the principal, you talk to the teachers, but the GNT school you cannot tour before, right? You have then later.
You have to wait.
Weeks,
But
still then you can, I just want to thank, because he was waiting for a while, the question, and then you, and then Anna.
This is a question mainly for people that have kids at 217 and then another school. Do you feel that it's often mentioned that the parent association is getting stronger and that the schools get better, etc. Do you feel that it is realistic to think that one getting involved in the school and being active, and a few more parents are active, that the school will actually get to a level that is similar to what experiences you're having in other schools?
Definitely. I think that the success of the school is dependent on the success of the PTA. If the PTA is strong, if it's robust, then it's going to be a successful school. My son is going to school in the Upper East Side. The Upper East Side is a strong community in terms of money. They have lots of money. The PTA has lots of money, and therefore it's considered to be a very strong school. I think that we can have it here. I think it only depends on the parents. And I think that it's your choice and it's your responsibility as a parent or as a community to invest in the school. An investment both in terms of money and in terms of the time that you put inside school. So if you are going to have a strong community, it's going to be a great school. It has, if you will tour around the city, you will see that PS217, in terms of building, it's one of the most beautiful schools in the city. The facility here, you don't find it, in PS267 you find it because it's a new school,
But it's really
We don't find it all. We have a computer.
outside.
But we have it in school. We have it in class.
Never mind, it's not important. But the school has
school
great
is great.
potential,
Yeah.
and it's only depend on the community to make it better. I think that's my own opinion. That I think.
Any other comments to that question specifically? No?
Okay, but so the question is, I think if the PTA is strong, then it will be a good school, but from
it's
your
a
experience,
process.
it's possible that or is it like inbuilt that maybe the administration is not willing to accept change, or?
It's probably, it's up to the two, right? But if the PTA is strong enough, they will make them, accept the change, even if they're not very willing. But it is a process.
I think for PT, I think the administration, if we kind of go over and above what we have set our goals for this year, they want to use it for professional development for the new teachers that we have. I think administration is invested in making the teachers better. So, that's where your kid's going to spend the majority of the time. That's probably where you're going to get the most bang for your bucks, as far as I think what administration thinks. PTA, the families always like the enrichments, so I think there will be a balance between those two.
Can I just add something to that? Is I think that no matter how much research you do about these schools and what score they get, environmental or other score they get on inside schools, as reported inside schools, that if there's a way you can do research to find out what people think about the teachers in the school and the leadership by the principal and how much energy they seem to give off, and that's a really good indicator of how your child may feel at that school. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how great the school is or its prestige, it's the luck of the draw with the teacher. You could get a real dud in an amazing school, a teacher who's just kept on there. So I've had that experience myself. I'm sure everyone has. You could go to a prestigious university and have the worst professor in the world. But so I just feel like when you do your school tour, to go on a day, to try and find out how much you could see the children in the class in action and not just tour an empty classroom. Ask as many questions as you have to of parents currently in the school about how they're happy with their teachers. Specifically, well, what do you like about the teachers? And it would be helpful.
Also, there is Great School. There is the website. It's called Great Schools, and you can get lots of information over there. Scoring. There is also a survey. They ask both the parents and the teacher what do they think about the principal, what do they think about the school atmosphere, and you can get lots of information over there.
So I have Christy, then I have Anna Maria, and then over there. Yes.
I was just going to say quickly, and it also, pertains to that question, but I think that keeping an open mind in school doesn't need to be something that is fixed. Like I know that it's daunting to think about going into kindergarten and making the choice of the school, but just being flexible and open-minded that if something doesn't work, it doesn't work, and it's not the end all, because my older son has been to 3 schools, and my younger son is going on his 3rd, hopefully. So, just being flexible and looking at your child, and if it's not working and it's not working, then it's not, there's always another opportunity, especially here, you have so many choices. So just thinking about your child, and if you feel like it's not the right fit the first time, it's okay, it's fine, just go on with the next choice, or, figure out what's gonna work best for the next time. But for the private school admissions, one of the great resources is the Parents League. So if you're going to look into private school, I would say definitely join the Parents League and get a connection there.
Anna Maria?
Yes, thank you all. And I'm going to squeeze 2 questions. One is, I'm not from here, and I have never ever in my life heard about prepping a 4-year-old. And I'm trying to keep my mind open, and I want to hear to whomever wants to take the question, like, when should we start? A little more about the process. And the second question is for the lady in red shirt. I want to hear, you went and looked at all the other GNT schools, and I want to hear why did you choose this one over all of those others.
Sure, of Thank you.
Do you want us to talk about the prep, or do you want me to?
Whatever.
I can.
We started prep with our daughter late in the game. We started like around October of the application year and just did a couple months of like fussing around in the house doing practice stuff. With our son, we started a little earlier. I think we started him around like August, September or something like that. But something on that order.
We did the same.
Pardon?
Like just months.
Yeah,
not
2
like
months.
years.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I can say I know people who started at all different times. For my son, I started in October, just before, and he took the exam in the beginning of January. So I wouldn't say we did too much prepping, but like I said, we try to make it light and fun. I learned some activities to do at home, and he did have those 3 sessions, which I would say no prepping probably isn't advisable, and I've only gone through this once, so from my experience, I think those 3 sessions, even though there were only 3 sessions with a tutor, I think it was helpful because what it is they're going before someone they never met before in an environment in a school they've never been in before, and they're getting an exam. So the 3 sessions simulated that, so it just gave them the experience of what that would be like. He did very well on the first exam, so that's why we just felt like 2 more is enough, and then that's it. Because they will, of course, ask you to keep taking, these prep tests. And
how much are they?
I don't remember how much he spends now. They are very expensive. So, but for us, we just wanted to see how he would do, and if he didn't do well, then we were just going to drop it. But he did really well, and also, like my son always, liked reading and was very academically focused. So I felt that it was a good fit for him, and his preschool teacher also advised us to do it. So I think it was good for him. I wouldn't recommend overly prepping them because you don't want to make them nervous or feel like,
bored?
Yeah, or
because they've seen it so
bored.
much.
Exactly. No, some kids get bored with the material, so you don't want to overdo it, I would say, my advice and from people I know. But you want them to have some sense of what's coming, have some kind of idea of what they're going to experience. So Sean knew, he's going just like he did with, her name was Floor, so he said, you're going to do a test just like you did with Floor in January. And it wasn't, so we did the prepping between beginning of October, end of November, and the test was in the beginning of January. So there was also some time where he didn't have, a tutor. So it was kind of like, he was familiar with it, but we didn't overdo it. And then I highly recommend the tours, as everyone has said. It's great because you get a flavor for each school. Why I chose PS 217, I went on the tour. It is beautiful. It's a beautiful school. They do offer all the enrichments that were offered in the other schools I looked at. So every day they have a special. So as Mitch has probably mentioned, every day there's an enrichment activity. They have art, music, gym, Spanish starting in kindergarten. So we went on a school day. We saw the kids in the classrooms interacting with the teachers. And we went to all the different enrichment classrooms as well, and I was just really impressed with it, and it felt right for me. So I think it's a really personal decision, as everyone's saying, so that's why talking to as many parents as you know is very helpful, and just looking at the different schools and talking to the teachers I think is also important. So as much kind of work you can do, I think is helpful, as much kind of conversations as you can have ahead of time, it's really helpful. But yeah, I've only have one child who's been in the school only a few months, but we're really happy with it so far. We're happy with the decision we made. My son's very happy, and like people said, it's a part of our community, so we feel it was a great fit for us.
Can I say just some practical things about the GNT test? So 2 things. One is it's graded in 3-month bands. So if your child's birthday is in January or every 3 months after that, you should try to make sure that you're testing them so that they're on the younger side of the band rather than on the older side of the band, because they can probably get 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 more wrong if they're, 2 weeks younger.
There's a date calculator, I think. There's a company called Aristotle Circle, which is one of these tutoring companies, that has a date calculator on the website that'll give you like what they think the optimal date for your kid to test is. Give me their birthday, which is kind of stupid, but whatever. If you're gonna game the system, why not give it all the way?
So, and then the other sort of practical thing is that they're gonna have to go
to usually in the cafeteria, they sit, or in the auditorium, and then they are going to have to go away with a stranger. And so when I took my son to the SMS, the special music school thing, he refused to separate from me. He was like, I'm not going, crazy mom, I don't know these people. And he was crying, and I was like, all right, whatever. So we so he never did it. He never did the play date at SMS. And so for all the next things that he had to do, including like GNT and Hunter, my husband took him because he was much more easier to separate from my husband. So just make sure that when you go to the test, somebody takes him that he'll separate from. And then also, it's important to remember that they're 4, so we had, with my daughter's first experience, we went to, I think it was PS 89 down in Tribeca, and there was a little kid who it seemed like it was his 2nd or 3rd time trying to separate, and he was crying, screaming, like somebody was like torturing him. And my daughter was like looking at this, and she was like, Mommy! So, you never know what's going to happen when it's a bunch of 4-year-olds, right? And so what I've heard actually from people in my son's school is that, they got like a 70 when they took it when they were 4, and then they got a 99 when they took it the next year. And so I think that if you are interested in GNT, and your kid doesn't score well, it doesn't mean that they're not smart. It means that they're 4 and they might have, not liked the teacher. And so, right, and it's a crappy test. And so, if you are interested in that type of program, you should retest. And you can usually get something in 1st grade. It may not be a great spot.
One mom told me the only prepping she did was basically making sure that, or trying to make sure that the child would separate and do some type of game or play date with a stranger, because it's a part of it. We cannot do.
So these 3 to 7 sessions that you've gone through, those are like kind of introducing everything to the kid, but what would you suggest is reasonable to do at home, and how often in a week?
You know your kid's style. If your kid's like gonna clamp down, if you're doing stuff, don't do much. If your kid loves doing puzzles and stuff, like the stuff that was recommended to us was do lots of puzzles, do lots of jigsaw puzzles, do tangrams, which are like these like match the shape things with triangles and squares and stuff. Pattern recognition games. That's the stuff that is going to translate into the skills that are assessed on those tests.
Yeah. But I have to say that with my 2 kids, my first hated all that, didn't want us to, even when we had someone come into the home, he didn't want to sit with them. He hated that. He hated the whole thing. And he didn't pass the test, the first time he took it, he only passed it the 2nd time. My other son loved every moment of it. We took him to Bright Kids also, and when we would leave the place, they give you books also. On the way back on the bus, he would make me, go over the book and, answer all the questions in the book. He just loved it. I would get fed up from it, before he would. So it's totally up to your son and, what he is able to do at, at 4. And, some are just, able to concentrate and do it, and some, are not. So
There's also a material you can get from online, right? What you can do at home.
Bright Kids sells books, but
Yeah,
you
they
can
sell
also, our preschool teacher recommended some of these kind of activities. My son loves doing puzzles, and he's kind of like your son who loves doing those kind of activities. So, so it was kind of just like a fun time with Mom to do an activity. We didn't like make it, too strict. We didn't make it seem like it was work in any kind of way. So it's just light and fun once in a while kind of stuff. But yeah, it depends on your child, I think. But you can definitely look online for Bright Kids has some books, but I think you can get them from Amazon as well for probably
I think
less.
they're probably, I don't know.
For probably less money.
They're a little expensive, but when you invest in the books, and then it's not something that you can't educate yourself on what is needed. So you don't actually have to send them to a tutor. You can just do maybe a few sessions just to get them accustomed to the idea of having a stranger go over the material with them. But it's not anything that you cannot go over at home.
Okay, and do you recommend any apps at all?
Yeah, they have an app, Bright
Pretty
Kids.
good.
The same Bright Kids, the same place. They have an app also. But those type of games, basically, all the puzzles, pattern recognition, shapes, numbers. I like all the I Spy, being able to spot little things, So all those skills would benefit you in doing that, and also, of course, some, just vocabulary, just, understanding actually what the question is, right? Because you need to understand what you're being asked. So just little things like that.